Welcome to Programming Fundamentals for Business. I'm happy to see you. If I'm seeing you for the first time, welcome to my channel. My name is Abraham, and if you have been here before, thank you for coming again. Uh, we are going to be looking at a course on Programming Fundamentals for Business. Programming Fundamentals for Business, like introduction to programming, but with a business mindset, teaching programming to business people, people that are business oriented. So we're going to divide the training into two phases. The course into two phases. Phase one is just general lectures. Then phase two we go into practical, where we do hands-on. In the phase one, we have divided it into three parts. The first part is part one, that you can see on the screen. Phase one, part one. We'll be looking at some programming languages and their features. We'll also look at what qualifies a language to be regarded as a programming language. We look at types of programming languages. We look at programming environment. In part two of phase one, we look at software environments or stages or phases. We also touch a little bit of software development life cycle. We'll touch programming or coding conventions, and then we'll narrow it down to Python coding convention, Python basic concept in Python. We'll also look at control structures with Python, with a bias for Python. We'll look at functions and also focus it on Python. Then we look at part three, phase one. We will look at data structures. Then we also look at object-oriented programming, data structures, and we'll also look at object-oriented programming, and that will give us our all that we need to do the lecture. Now, let us go straight and look at some of the programming languages that I talked about. I've prepared a slide for about 15 of the programming languages. Now, the first one we have here is Python. What type of programming language is Python? You can call it is an interpreted language. It's an object-oriented language. It is high-level programming language, and it is a general purpose programming language. It is easy to read. What are the key features of Python? It is easy to read and write. It is dynamically typed, which means you don't need to declare the variables type at the value you assign to the variables that will determine their type. If you don't understand that statement now, you understand it later. Then it has a wide range of libraries, NumPy, Pandas, TensorFlow. You see all of them. It is most efficient in data science, data analysis, Python, web development with frameworks like Django and Flask. Then part of its key feature is great for scripting, automation, data analysis, like I said before, AI, and machine learning and web development. It is cross-platform compatible, and it is a general purpose programming language. Then we also talk about JavaScript. It is interpreted, high-level, multi-paradigm, and also object-oriented. It is primarily used for web development. JavaScript is primarily used for web development. It is event-driven, and it is most efficient, just like I've said, in doing front end. Use it together with HTML and CSS, and for back end, it's Node.js and for the back end, really helping to build scalable network applications. It is also used for mobile development. As you can see, there is is the main language for React Native. Also, it is good for what we call serverless architecture. It supports object-oriented, imperative, and functional programming. It has a very rich ecosystem. What we mean by ecosystem, if you cannot talk about React without talking about JavaScript, Vue, Angular. All these are JavaScript framework and interact very well. These are the key features that you have. It interacts very well with HTML and CSS. Another popular programming language that we can talk about, most people think that JavaScript is from Java. No, it's just a name, it's just a coincidence of name. So Java, the first we talked about, they are interpreted languages, but Java is a compiled language. It's regarded as a compiled language because of the JVM bytecode. It is also object oriented. It is the key feature, one of the primary features of Java is that it is platform independent, which means write once and run anywhere because of Java Virtual Machine. That is what JVM means. And then we have a strong memory management with what is called garbage collection. And it is most efficient when you want to design a large scale application, banking application, any kind of enterprise application. And as you already know, Java is one of the main language. It's the main language for Android development. It has dominates the Android development, Android mobile app development environment. It is also good for web development because it has the frameworks like Spring and Hibernate. It is good for big data processing. When you talk about Hadoop and Apache Spark, then some other of the key features is that it has multi-threading and concurrency. It has large community, as you can see. And also another one is C++. C++, like Java, is also compiled, and it combines, one of the sweet things about C++ is that it combines high level and low level features together. As we talk about types of programming language, we know what I mean by high level and low level features. Then it is good for game development. It is for system writing of operating systems, compiler, system level application, and for high level, high performance applications. That's also what it is used for. It is good in managing memory, direct memory manipulation with the use of pointer and all the other key features that you can see from there. It is also, C++ is also good for embedded system when you want to use it for low-level device programming. And the example of an embedded system is like your sensors and all that, your little electronic devices that you need to program a particular chip and use C++. Is very good for that. Another one is C#. C# is developed by Microsoft for the .NET framework. If you have visited a website like W3 Schools, it was designed on the basis, on the platform of C#. That's why you see ASP.NET. So C# is used to design application for Windows, design games, and it's also good for web application. It is a compiled language and it has a rich library with features like link, async, await, and lambda expression. We also have PHP. We have PHP. PHP is interpreted in server-side scripting. It is primarily for the web, so you can use it to design content like You can use it to design websites, especially things like WordPress, Drupal, Joomla. Even a greater part of Facebook was designed with PHP. Then you have content management systems, just like the one I've mentioned, and the e-commerce platform, social media platform, etc. It is very rich. It has a very rich ecosystem with Laravel and Symfony. Another programming language 7 that we're going to talk about is uh, Ruby. Ruby is a programming language that is interpreted, is high level, is general purpose, which means you can use it for web development, you can use it for prototyping, you can use it for automation, and it is great for rapid prototyping and web application development. It also has a very nice, easy to understand and object-oriented, uh, concise syntax. It became popular for web development, particularly for Ruby on Rails network. Another popular programming language I want to talk about is Swift. Swift is a compiled and general purpose, but it is made to develop application for the Apple ecosystem, iOS, Mac development, and for whether you're designing for Mac system or iOS native app for mobile application. So if you want to design mobile application solely for iOS devices, you should go to the native app that is officially created for iOS, which is Swift. And then, but you should also know that it was developed by Apple, and it is modern, it is fast, it is type safe. It has interoperability with Object-C. It has a very good memory management. And it's also good for designing performance critical application. Another one is Golang. Golang is a compiled language. It was developed by Google, and it is good for cloud computing. If you want to, one of the best language to go for if you want to specialize in cloud computing is Golang, and it's good for distributed systems. It has a strong memory management. It has a strong support for concurrency, and is good for system level programming. Another one is R. R is a programming language that is interpreted, it's high level, it is statistical, it's made for statistics primarily, used for statistical computing, data analysis, and visualization. So R is very powerful if you want to just look at statistics, visualization. It has a very rich library in which you can use to manipulate data. It is good for data science. It is good for machine learning. It is good for bioinformatics, and even for research. Then another programming language is Kotlin. Kotlin is compiled. It is fully interoperable with Java, and it is for Android development. And the good thing about it is that this is the official language that is used for Android development. It is cross-platform. It can target JVM and JavaScript useful, and makes it useful for multi-platform apps. It can be used to develop modern applications used for server-side development. Another one is TypeScript. TypeScript adds static type to JavaScript. The just an upgrade of JavaScript. JavaScript is dynamically typed, but TypeScript is static. The type is static. Trans, it can be used to design large-scale web applications, enterprise development, front-end development, almost everything that JavaScript can do, TypeScript can also do it. And some of the um, um, frameworks supported by JavaScript are also they also support TypeScript. Another one is Rust, RUST. It focuses on safety and performance. It is a compiled language system program used for system programming, and it is memory safe, excellent for low-level system programming. It is similar to C and C++, and it is good for concurrency and parallelism and web assembly. Then 14, we look at SQL. SQL is domain-specific language. It's majorly language for relational database, where you query the database, and it has so many flavor like MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, MS SQL, used for database management. And there's no way you talk about backend and you are using relational database that you will not talk about SQL, because that is the language you use for manipulating your data. And also it is also a go-to tool for any data analyst. So it is good for data analysis. It's a key tool for scaling large data sets in data warehouse. Then finally, the last but not the least, we'll also talk about shell scripting. And shell scripting is a command line. If you have ever used MS-DOS, if you have ever used Terminal in Mac, you are just using shell scripting. And then it is good for automation, ideal for automating repetitive tasks. It is primarily used in Linux, but you can also find it's somehow is used in other operating systems. It is good for system administration. It is good for DevOps. So if you look at, I've been saying since compiled, interpreted, what really is the difference between compiled and interpreted language? The primary difference between a compiled and interpreted language lies on how the source code is executed and transformed into a readable instruction. Now, if you look at it from the process aspect, the compiled language is a compiled language requires the source code to be translated or compiled into machine language. And interpreted language, the source code is executed line by line. So in compiling, you take all of them together. Just when you talk about an interpreter, whatever you are saying, if you record it and say this is what you have said, but a compiler is waiting for you to finish everything, compile all of them together, and tell you what it is. So we look at the implication, and then we look at the execution flow. We say source code to compiler and machine to machine code, that's the executable code that can be run by the CPU. While for interpreter, it says source code to interpreter to execution. Now, key characteristics, performance. The compiled language is typically faster because it already solved a lot of problems. It has checked errors, syntax, and all that before it will start to run. But the interpreted language is slower because it is during execution that some of the errors are detected, and it makes it slow. Portability, and A compiled language is specific to the platform. Windows, Linux, meaning you need to recompile it every time. But an interpreted language is portable across platforms. Examples of compiled language is C, C++, Rust, Go, Swift, Java. Example of interpreted language is Python, JavaScript, Ruby, PHP, Perl, and Arrow language. Okay, then I've also summarized the key differences here for you. There are also languages that have both features of a compiled language and features of an interpreted language. One of such language is Java. Another of such language is C sharp. C sharp. They take what we call the hybrid pattern. They compile in Java. They compile source code into byte code, which is then interpreted further or further compiled by a virtual machine. And this combines aspects of both compiled and interpreted languages, offering some performance gain and portability. Then what makes a language a programming language? But before we can talk about that, a programming language is simply a way, a formal means of communication in which a human can talk to a computer, can give instructions to a computer. It has rules, it has syntax, it has rules, as you can see here. It has syntax, it has semantics, and this determines how something will run. These are things that determine how it should work, how the rules you will follow to create the program in the computer. And the purpose of programming languages is, as we have said, to enable efficient communication between humans and computer to automate, compete, and solve problems. Sometimes just a particular task. So what are the things that are needed in the programming language that makes better? One, syntax. When you talk about syntax, syntax is talking about rules of how something should be written. Syntax of English language, syntax of Igbo language, syntax of Hausa language, syntax of Yoruba language, syntax of Yoruba language. All these things are syntax that one ought to follow, rules one ought to follow. Then when you talk of semantics, you are talking about meaning. So that there's a rule for writing or for saying something, and then there's meaning to what you have written and to what you are writing. So that's the difference between syntax and semantics. Then you talk about abstraction. If you be able to hide details of the things that are running within the machine from humans. Not that we don't, as humans, we don't need to stress ourselves to things of the zeros and ones that are moving inside the computer to be able to understand it. A programming language to be able to solve all those problems for us without looking without us trying to solve those problems for ourselves. The programs written in a programming language can either be compiled or interpreted. All these are features of programming language. Now let's talk about types of languages. Types of languages. Primarily, we have low-level languages. We also have high-level languages. low-level languages and high-level language. Now, it can also be presented in this form. Can also be presented in this form: programming languages, programming languages. Then you have low-level languages, low-level languages. Then you have high-level languages. Okay. So you have high-level languages, and among the low-level languages, you have what we call assembly language. Assembly language, and you have machine language. So among these also, we have interpreted and compiled. So and compiled. So we'll be talking about these things, and you can see an example there. An example of interpreted is Python. An example of compiled is Java. And machine language are zeros and ones. Assembly language are talking about register that one can use. Okay. Then what is a programming environment? Programming environment is simply a collection of tools that can be used to write programs. It involves not just only writing, you'll be able to test, you'll be able to debug, you'll be able to maintain the code. All these things are things that ought to be found in a programming environment. So we look at the key components of a programming environment. Text editor is IDE. IDE means integrated development environment. An IDE, a text editor, is just for you to write. We have text editor like Notepad, Notepad++, Sublime Text, Atom. Then we have IDEs, like they combine both, have the ability of a code editor, they can debug, they have version control, and many more features. It's a comprehensive tool. We have things like Visual Studio. Ordinarily, at the basic level, Visual Studio cannot be regarded. I don't regard Visual Studio as an IDE, but the Visual Studio has ability to integrate other stuff, other plugins, other extensions that power it to become a very powerful IDE. And so with those integrations, I regard it as an IDE. IntelliJ, Python, and all these Eclipse is also an IDE. Then an programming environment is supposed to also have a compiler or an interpreter that converts the code into from high level to machine language or bytecode that can be executed by the computer. We also have a debugger that helps to identify errors in the code, so that the programmer can be able to monitor the flow of the program. It also has with it view tools that will enable compiling, linking, and packaging the code. These are things that we are supposed to find in a programming environment. Then we also have version control system like Git, like SVN. We also have runtime environment. Provide the necessary library and resources for running the code. Then we also have terminal or command line interface, CLI, often used for compiling code, running scripts, and managing dependency. Now, your assignment. What do you understand by the term production stage with regard to software development? Give 10 reasons Python is regarded as the best programming language for artificial intelligence. What is the current version of Python? List 10 ideas